born outside the United States of America?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you're
Oh,
born?
then you would do it to the Secretary of State of the United States, I believe. Because if I understand the way that service of process goes with the states, if it's in a foreign state and you're in court, you're supposed to deliver it to the Secretary of State, who then will deliver it to the agent of the other state. At least that's what happened in that foreclosure case. They had the Secretary of State do service of process on the hospital, and suddenly everything disappeared. I mean, it was just amazing what we found.
But did they still keep giving you your electric service, right?
They should. I don't know. I don't have electric bill. I have a credit card that I've done this on, and I haven't heard back from it. Then again, I haven't had an SSP use the card because the card I got once was for healthcare. I needed some work done. I needed the money, so boom, I applied for healthcare. They gave me a credit card. The second one was for repairs on a car. I needed repairs on a car. I applied to Midas. They gave me a credit card. We got the car repaired. I got the bill in the mail. I said, all right, I'll do exactly what I did with the hospital the first time. In the hospital's emergency, I cut this part of my hand open. Right. So I got stitches. It was like $4 grand. So they sent me, one place sent me a bill, and I go, okay, so fine. I found the registered agent in Florida of it, and I sent it to that dude to send it up to Tennessee to the headquarters, to the CFO. I haven't heard back from him. I mean, granted, it was only in August, so we'll see what happens.
Well, if I need to get eye surgery, do I just schedule the eye surgery?
Yeah.
Now they want insurance before they'll schedule the eye surgery.
Well, here's what other people have done with the birth certificate.
Okay.
They've gone in for triple bypasses. 2 people have done this. One guy in Texas, another guy up in where was it, Michigan? Mm-hmm. They went in there and scheduled, talked to the administrator of the hospital, scheduled the thing, and presented the birth certificate, and signed off as this is the property of the state of the state of Michigan or the state of Texas. And that's what they did when they went in.
Okay.
They never got a bill, and they got first-class treatment.
So, like, tomorrow I go to the station, then take my birth certificate and go to a car dealer and pick up a car.
No, the car dealership, you have to have they have to give you the contract first, so you have something to accept, because that becomes your promissory note.
Oh, okay. So I buy.
Remember,
a car.
the birth certificate works for hospitals really, really well, because it's part of it's a vital statistic act.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, and they're the ones that are creating it.
They're the ones who are creating it. So they're the initial transfer.
Plus, they want to keep the man alive to be able to have.
Correct, but under the IRS rules, the initial transfer is always liable in a transfer where it leaves you without any asset to pay your debt. So therefore, the initial transfer is liable. So technically, the hospital of birth is always liable for everything, but the registrar is the one who receives it, and that's the one who's indemnified. So eventually, it's going to go back to the state who issued it, and they're going to pay for it, because that's what they did to bring the states back under control, back into the union, and cease being in rebellion. Because the counties is actually the United States. The states are the servicing agents for it, and then the United States is the trust protector.
Okay.
Okay, so reality is they have to go to the state CFO to access the county CAFR funds to set off that debt, because it's all predicated on your credit, and they're investing it everywhere. Every action, everything they're doing, it's all usufruct. So it doesn't matter if it's profit or gain, they still have to pay the taxes and settle the claims. Well, they have to keep the thing repaired at its own expense. My surgery is to repair me.
Right.
It's all repair.
Well, I've been denied all of that because by all of these actions, they triggered a series of actions that has snowballed my life and made it impossible for me to function in a normal capacity.
What do you mean they triggered?
It started off with a judge acting outside of his authority.
Okay.
Even though he was given evidence that he was acting outside of his authority.
Okay, but how did they trigger it?
Well, basically, it started off with a company, Wells Fargo, I was working with.
Okay.
Working with and getting sold a house that was under fraudulent premise, but they knew that it had water damage, and I got sick. And they knew that I was restructuring the debt of Ecuador, and they took it and they blocked me from doing it, even though it was the greatest restructuring of third world debt in history. So So they stole and it got done in another institution using my creation. So, it was just a series of events that caused me, and Wells Fargo, the one who initiated the mortgage on the house, fraudulently took the mortgage, and they told the underwriter to do that, to fraudulently cook the numbers of the appraisal.
All right, but how does that affect you today?
I'm not able to operate. I'm not able to get health care. I'm not able to live in a house. I was taken. My family was taken away from me.
Okay.
All of those things have been affected as a direct result of this series of crimes. It's what they call a chain conspiracy. And it all had stemmed from, I started to have a good relationship with the judge, and then when I had the other judge, what do you call it, I got her thrown off, disqualified. And it turns out he had poked her several times in orgies and smoked crack with her. She's the crack hoe of Indian River County, that judge. And so because of that, and his personal whatever, they started retaliating against me and began to not permit admissible evidence in evidentiary hearings.
Okay.
So, in other words, he obstructed my ability to present my...
All right, so you went into court thinking it's all about right and wrong.
That's correct.
Okay.
That was your first mistake.
That was the first mistake.
Right.
All right, all courts are business. You need to go in there and collect the securities that were underwriting those courts.
Right. So I'm going to go back because it was all under the premise of fraud, and so I'm going to go back in every case and reopen every case of that chain conspiracy and collect the debt they created in my life. Because I made them an offer.
No, you're collecting the securities that are underwriting that case for redemption. That would be hurting them more than you going in there and doing it like that.
Okay.
So you're going there as the appropriate person for the estate of the decedent that they administrated, and you're here to collect all the securities for redemption.
Oh, and since
now if they act against it, it's called treason because now they're interfering with the banking system.
Oh, and since my offers to do it was my actual cost of doing business, then they have to then honor those contracts, or then it's treason, I guess. And that's,
and plus, if you think about it, the number one job of the courts is to administrate the bankruptcy. And so if they interfere with that with you, they're interfering with the bankruptcy.
But it also goes back to I've been trying to probate my mother's estate, which is a trust, a foreign trust, for years, and they're interfering with my probating of an estate.
Again, you're the grantor of the case.
Right.
Nominate that dude trustee. As soon as he fails, the trust collapses to you. Okay. Now you go to the IRS and have them go collect it. IRS doesn't give a shit who these judges are. They're going to go collect. They're here. They're the bookkeepers of the emergency.
What do you do? Do a 1099?
You do a 1099 OID to them, and then do
I did do a 1099 for one thing. I said bad debt collection, so I wrote off $20 million of $1 billion and sent it to each of them as bad debts. So they would, the IRS would...
Did you send it to the IRS?
I sent it the 1099 to the IRS.
Okay, good.
And so that means they had to pay the IRS. Now, if they didn't pay it, and if they claim something else, I can go back to do fraud and then fourfold as conspiracy in that to make sure.
There's a follow-up IRS form that you file to verify that it was dealt with. I think something like that.
Right.
All right. Here's my suggestion.
Okay.
Take your case number. We can get QSIP for $1.60. You get the QSIP number for it. You file a 1099 OID and 8281 with it. And then you send that off to the IRS and send it back to them because they're holding the original issue.
Okay.
They're treating it as a tax-free event. But you're the one, your estate being the one who initiated the case or the one that underwrites it by virtue of having that current, by virtue of that QSIP, is the underwriter for it, thus the grantor for it. So now you can issue orders to the judge to then transfer the securities
They've sued,
out of
they've
that
sued
case.
me, they sued me for an injunction, and that's when I filed the thing. I made them offer 100 times and filed my court
Again,
case.
you're approaching it as if it's right and wrong.
Oh, I'm not.
I'm
saying-
approaching this as if it's business and securities, because that's all it is.
I did a subrogation.
So now you're going to do now you're going to do your 1090 ID showing you're the original issuer of the securities, and you're going to order that damn judge to do something.
Okay.
That judge doesn't do it, he's in breach of trust. Now you
Okay.
can collapse the trust.
Great.
And then go back to the IRS and get them to recover on the funds, because those funds will be payable back to you
Okay.
as a return credit.
I gotcha.
That's what you're doing.
So if you help me out with this, and I were to gift you, because I can gift you anything I want, right?
Yeah.
So then I can gift you back, because literally, I can win 3 different ways in everything, because every system they do is under my royalty system. So I can win under the royalty system, I can win under the trust, I can win. So there's 3 different ways to attack them. So there's no way, everything with me, it's nailed from all 3 coffins, what they
Okay, but I'm telling you, your best bet is the securities.
Yeah, well, I
Because
agree
the
with
second
you.
they do that, that's securities fraud against the U.S. Treasury,
Right,
and that is treason.
right. But their religion, which is the Freemasonry, my
Okay.
relative is the controller of that. He has the beehive crown. Do you know what that is? In the Templar, that's the head, that's the chief, that's the king of the entire Templar system.
Okay.
And so, I can demand through that side of it that they be executed for.
Then go ahead and demand that. But what I'm saying is, if you want your monies back and you want all that
being a
cleared.
Christian, I want to give them a chance to not be executed if I get my money.
Well, I wouldn't even look at it as money. I would say if you look at it as settlement.
Settlement.
Your
Okay.
peace of mind.
Exactly.
Because that's the most valuable thing on earth is peace of mind.
Right.
Being able to lay your head
Yeah.
on the pillow without
So
worrying.
I've been homeless now since December.
Yeah.
So, they took everything. They took everything, and then I managed to squeak back and get a few dollars here and there. And, in fact, I claimed the great architect, that they're going against the great architect of the universe, and they basically settled one of my situations. There was a big problem, but that was only $26,000. So it was peanuts.
Okay. But still, it's going to be you got to make your claim to the securities that are underwriting everything, because they took the house, therefore they owe you whatever you did to secure it, because they can't take both.
Right.
So they owe you the value you have in the house. They never gave it to you. They took it. Remember, they purchased it. I don't care how they took it by court order. It's irrelevant. Some other voluntary transaction creating an interest. So they took it by court order. That's still voluntary. So they voluntarily purchased your house. So now you got to bill them for the amount that they purchased.
And you decide what.
But actually, I already gave them a bill for all the costs.
Okay. Now that becomes your OID. So your OID becomes the $26 million or 2.6 or whatever your number is on there for the value that they owe you, and they're supposed to pay it back. So that becomes your original issue.
Okay, but going back to the security interest is the way to get funds back, and no other way.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Because you bought the house, there's a security interest in it, therefore now they owe you the value.
Okay.
Because they purchased it, because the UCC is the law of the land now.
I put down $120,000 deposit on one house that made me sick.
Okay.
So.
That's what I'm saying. It's just a security. So we go to get the QSIP number. You find out that they used your name to underwrite it, or whatever name's on that birth certificate. I don't care what name they're using, as long as it shows anything other than Wells Fargo, you're in there. And if you're the receipt holder of the name that bank is in, that's your financial asset used to underwrite the cause.
Right.
Now you're the grantor of it, and now any proceeds any profits that are made are now yours.
Yeah.
And they may want to return the house to you if they haven't already sold it.
Oh, the house is already, there's somebody else living in it.
Yeah, so then they
Now
won't be able to do
the
that.
proceeds become yours, and the proceeds they were delivered to you becomes your OID issue.
Okay.
And that becomes what you're taxing them on. Now, if you want to, you can cancel the OID, and now they have to pay taxes on it for the cancellation of that as income.
I think the other thing with Wells Fargo that we've discovered as well is that they're buying back a lot of their foreclosure properties. So
Yeah, because they can't sell them right away.
no, but even that, but even if they can, there's something to do with the accounting, I think, that it's
Yeah.
back in their name again.
Well, Wells
So
Fargo
then
built their whole they built their whole business using my family's lands. So
Okay.
San Francisco.
Okay.
And
They actually
so
built their whole business by
then
taking
stealing
people's
land
gold and claiming it got stolen on the stagecoach.
Right. Yeah.
That's really how they built their business.
Yeah, that's yeah. But
You
you
know?
go look at the they ran the wires, they ran all. If you start going through the whole process, should I then own as a result of them using family things?
I'm not going into that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into that because, for all I care, everybody contributes to this whole thing, and people need to stop worried about what they used to own.
Right.
What we're trying to do is get you whole again.
Okay.
I'm not worried about your family's lands and all that other stuff. That's all another issue.
One at a time.
Okay, well, let's do one thing at a time. One thing at a time, and then you can start undoing all that other stuff when you see how all this works. All that other stuff is like the Cherokee trying to go back and get their treaties done. That's up to you guys. Because I don't know how, the Cherokee Treaty, they were supposed to give it back, they never did. And therefore they lost it. Now they're scattered into 16 different tribes, and only 2 of the tribes are talking together, they ain't never getting it back.
And the other thing is, as you do one thing at a time, you can see your missteps, correct it on the next one,
Yeah.
correct the next one until you can get better.
That's why you have all this stuff.
You don't bring the wrath of the whole system on you by doing way too much and kicking the horns.
Right, and that's why you're given all this stuff, is so you can learn one step at a time. Yeah, like I said, make your corrections.
Well,
But it's also so you can detach yourself from the interest of it at the same time.
And the other thing is, as you do 1 or 2 or 3 and you win them, now you're in a better position where they're going to worry about and want to settle.
Because here's the reality of you going back to get all your telegraph line family stuff and everything else. Who really pays the brunt of that?
The people.
Not the people who stole it,
Right, exactly.
but everybody else who ended up using it, but they never, even though they had no knowledge of it. So you're actually punishing everybody else
actually,
for the actions of a few.
there's like 100 families that own the stock for all those corporations that we all
Okay,
pay
but what
for.
I'm saying is when they get in trouble, who pays the bills?
No, I hear what you're saying. That's why I've not wanted to go that route,
Yeah.
because I know that. But on the other hand, you got these corporations, these banks, that basically a few shareholders own.
All right, and here's something that's going to happen with all those banks is they're getting ready to be held with a bag of worthless cash.
Right.
So they're about to be taught a lesson that they needed to be taught. Is when you speculate and do everything you're going to do, eventually you're going to be held with nothing.
Right.
They're going to be held with worthless stock and empty currency, just like they've done to all other nations on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all going to be turned around on them, and they're not going to like what's about to happen to them.
Well, you're going to hear a big vacuum because you got the laws for bail-in now, not bail-out.
Yeah.
So they'll suck down.
They'll suck out all the assets of those banks are going to go back to the Northwest Ordinance because they're using it all anyway.
Yeah.
All that property is held in trust somewhere else. It's all God's property anyway. Nobody owns any part of it. I don't care how far back your damn family goes.
That's
it's all
true.
God's.
And the other thing is, how
All right.
did your family come to own it?
And God has already determined that Donald Trump will be the new trustee. The President of the United States will be the new trustee. It's all falling apart on these guys. My buddy's already done some things in there to
So we're never
probate
gonna
the
have,
Church of Philadelphia
we're
and
never
other
gonna
stuff
have,
through the Treasury. So we're on that part of it, and we're helping Trump out.
so we're never going to have the office of the presidency filled? That's the Republic.
Yeah, the office of the presidency will be filled.
Yeah, like you
Because
said,
but
Here's the deal.
But he's president of the United States, but we've never had the office of the
commander-in-chief.
president.
Right, as commander-in-chief, he's going to fulfill the office of the presidency eventually, but that's only going to be for the republic side of everything. That's going to be to govern those who can't govern themselves.
And
If you're a king and your own self, and you're acting as you should, you don't need a government.
That's right.
I don't need a government. I'm self-governing.
Right.
The government's for those who don't want to do for themselves. And he's commander-in-chief, They'll be president of the republic, and the only people that can vote for him are those who are claiming their estates,
The
their
government
heavenly and earthly estates combined.
has only been functioning for the parasites, those that want
We're all
got their hands
parasites.
out.
We're all parasites.
Well, you can be a productive member of society. You can produce abundantly above what you use, and consume is what estates are built on.
Okay?
So there's a...
And right now I'm saying that nobody took anything out of the public trust.
Okay,
Nothing has been removed, it's all still there.
okay.
What you're looking at are the result of lien and lien interest against that property that they're using as commercial paper.
Okay.
It's like fractional lending based on $1 lien on every man, woman, and child. That's how the money system works.
Okay.
You got $1 in existence for every man, woman, and child per census. So if there's 320 million people, you have $320 million in existence. 320 million $1 bills. Now what they do in the fractional market is they take that dollar just like they used to do pieces of 8, and they shave off a little bit.
Yeah.
So they create a fraction called 5. So now you have 1/5 of a dollar, and you go to 10, 1/10 of a dollar, 1/20th of a dollar, 1/100th of a dollar, 1/1,000,000th of a dollar, and then what they do to sell you the Satanistic side is they flip it over and call it wealth. When in reality it's just nothing.
Call it what?
They call it wealth.
Well, yeah, okay.
So you have $800 trillion in derivatives out there running around, right? You don't have $800 trillion in derivatives because everything's going to consolidate back down to 320 million. And that's how Trump is going to do it all. He's going to collapse all down because he knows what it is. He's part of their club. He knows the science. He knows the rules. He knows the rituals.
Sure.
He knows what they're thinking. He knows how they act. He's been screwed over by these guys more times than anybody else. You know, I mean, he in the 80s, I think he's still living off the tax write-offs from the personal debt he took on. You know, and everybody wants to see his records. There is no records. He has no income. He just has tax liabilities he's giving out to everybody. That's how he pays for everything. He goes, here, I'll just write off your here. Just have some debt, and boom, now you have a tax write-off. Boom, here's a tax write-off. Here's another one. Have another one. Have another one. I'm just going to renovate these buildings, and I'm going to make it look like I have billions of dollars because that's how these guys operate. They have no money in their accounts. Bill Gates has not found $500 billion in his bank account. He lives a life like he has, as if he has $500 billion because of his contributions to the current agenda that they're running.
Right.
And as long as
And
you
every billionaire has been created by the agenda.
Correct. And every billionaire has been created by this agenda, but they don't have billions. They appear like they have billions. That's why they can be taken away at any time. They all have an illusion. It's all image. Image is everything. Remember the old Sprite commercials? Image is nothing. I mean, image is everything. Or Andre Agassi. Sorry, it was the Canon commercials. Image is everything.
Well, well, they have billions in assets on their accounting for net worth.
Well, they have billions in assets. They have billions in debt.
Right.
Because that's all an asset is in that world is debt.
Right, it's a cash flow that.
Yeah.
that allows
That's
them
all
to
they're doing.
use it.
I mean, it's not. I mean, they're selling you the illusion that they have all this so you can be like them. But truth is, they want you to sell your soul to them. Sell out everybody else around you to have this glory and this fame and notoriety, and you'll be a big star one day because everybody wants to live like a rock star. You know, everybody wants to live that rock star lifestyle. You know, I want the big car, I want the flashy things, and I want the girl with the fake tits. You know, that's what they're selling us. That's what they're selling everybody.
Sure.
But it's all fake. It's all an illusion. You know, they're trying to get everybody to live that way, and everybody goes out and extends themselves trying to live that way, and all they're doing is end up on the bottom.
They go for the bait.
And this is how these guys live. They sell the bullshit to the people go out and engage in the bullshit, and all they do is profit from the bullshit. So it's just more and more and more as it stacks up and up and up, and eventually, you know, it's a house of cards. Once we understand how we can reach out and touch, what happens when you touch a house of cards? It comes collapsing down.
That's Bernays.
Yeah.
Well,
Mind control.
and that's one of the reasons why I couldn't do anything before the election, because then I'd be interfering with the election, because the governor who engaged in this false lawsuit under false premise, they, you know, if I filed everything in the court system, they'd have ammunition to hurt.
Yeah, you'd be a foreign influence.
Right. And so then it
So you have to wait till after the midterms.
exactly, because then I can't interfere with the governor of Florida's chance at the Senate. I know that.
Yeah.
Everything in my life's been delayed because of that.
Yeah.
And so I have to do it under a fictitious name like Roe or something like that, and have the whole case sealed if I want to do it ahead of time. I mean, and something to keep the governor from. I can't interfere with the elections. I know that. I had the ammunition to do half of this stuff for months, and I've not been able to do that.
Yeah. You gotta wait till afterwards, because if not, it's undue influence. Even Trump can't go through and execute the arrest warrants, even if he wanted to, even if he could. And he has everything in place.
Right.
But he can't do it because it's an undue influence.
And
right now, these guys have such sensitive skin, such thin skin, that a breeze blows wrong and they're claiming victimhood status. Oh my God, I'm rocking. Oh my God, you're hurting me because you said something wrong, or your hair went the wrong way, or whatever it is. They're such thin skin.
I hear. I know about.
So most of this might actually become irrelevant anyway.
No, all this is relevant is because Trump can't do it all. He can put.
No, I meant with the way the system is currently and what we're trying to do, to some extent, will become irrelevant if everything.
No, because
it'll become more relevant.
It'll become more relevant because the new contract comes into place. Once you start to collapse down and get rid of everything, now you have a new deal. A new contract will come into place.
People will decide which part of the contract they want.
Correct. And my choice on the contract is, I use that not for my glory, but for the glory of everybody else. That's God. And I give it all. I give the usufruct to the Treasury, keep naked ownership, and now I should have access to God's covenants while I'm out there doing my job, doing my works. And now I don't have to work for money like a lot of other people will. They'll go right back to their slavery.
Yeah, we'll be like cheering, and most everybody will be like, oh my God!
Yeah, but I mean, they're going to recontract right back into their slavery and accept the chip or whatever. Now they're 1 Samuel 8 again. They'll 1 Samuel 8 them.
1 Samuel 8 them.
Yeah.
So what did Heather Ann speak to Gareth and Randall Bean? Do you know about that?
Who?
They're trying to access the Treasury accounts.
Oh, well, good luck on that.
I know.
As far as I know, Trump cut off all access to the Treasury direct system to prevent these guys in the courts from doing what they've been doing. But they don't know that yet, so they still got buyers for the debt out there. They're still moving it through, using whatever securities are currently out there.
But there's other people that are trying to just go in and then grab money that wasn't really there.
Exactly.
They just.
And he cut everybody off from that. So it doesn't matter if you're legit or not. When the time comes, they'll reopen it, but it will go back down to zero, and then they'll work it out to whatever position you have left, and it's going to be under the post office. So you're going to have to do things with the post office, not with the Treasury and stuff like that. They're going to return the post office will be your bank. It'll be the seat of government, and then anybody who claims their estate you'll have to claim your heavenly estate first, because it'll tell you where to go to claim your earthly estate. So you have to reconcile both of them together.
So using stamps from the post office on your security bonds is a key element, because you're basically using real money from a real money system.
2-cent stamps, that's all you need.
I understood the International Postal Union, which all postal systems are tied to, is tied to the Vatican.
Probably.
Didn't Trump just withdraw from that?
Trump, he didn't really withdraw, but he said he's no longer going to abide by its policies. So if it turns out that they're going to interfere in what he's doing, he's just going to say, okay, we're done. But he decided that that's no longer viable. So that's one thing he could do before the elections, and then after the elections, they're going to start doing everything else. Because all these guys are allowed to come out of the woodwork. They've all come out of the woodwork to show their support, to try to get Democrats out there to vote for them. And if Hillary and Bill are your spokespersons, you're in trouble.
Big time.
They already got Ginsburg who showed up, and she's a pedophile. We already know that. She wants to lower age of consent to 12.
Yeah.
She's just nasty. And then you got the other 2 lesbian chicks on there, and they'll come off when it's revealed that Obama was out of Kenya. He wasn't a U.S. citizen, so therefore everything he did is null and void. and they'll nuke those two, and then Trump will probably have 5 appointees on the Supreme Court by the time he's done with his first term.
Yeah, that'll shift the.
They thought they were pissed with Kavanaugh. They ain't seen nothing.
I think everything is lining up to do it. We'll see. All depends how much fraud, election fraud, the Democrats can get away with it or not.
Yeah, but see, he'll nail him on that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. All depends if they get away with it or not.
Yeah, he pulled Sessions out of Alabama to prove the election fraud. You know, you saw what was going on.
Well, I heard or read through Jim Stone's website that there was some kind of legislation put in place by the Democrats 30 years ago that made it so that the Republicans or anybody else couldn't challenge any of the results of any of the elections.
So far, the Democrats have come out and said a bunch of stuff. Basically, they're going to hang themselves because now they can't say that they can issue presidential pardons. None of the pardons can go against people who are under current investigation. So all these people who were pardoned before, now they're going to go under investigation, claim presidential pardon. It's like, wait a minute, you already said those don't exist. You know, they've shot themselves in the foot really hard in battling Donald Trump, and I'm like, dude, it's just hilarious to watch the hypocrisy just show. And I told my buddy, I was like, you know what he's doing, right? He goes, what? I go, he's turning him into a hypocritical apologist. Every one of these guys.
But you got to give it to the Dems. They actually put something in motion that was tied up Trump fairly well with this whole Russian thing and all this stuff, and they thought that they were going to win, and they were putting that in motion for that purpose, to destroy the Republicans altogether once the election was over, right?
And you can tell a lot of their actions were done by already going, okay, this was our plan, so this comes in at this time, and then they can't communicate with each other anymore because all their satellites and closed communications have been shut off. Yeah. Their NSA network is down, their CIA network is down, their satellites have been destroyed. I mean, all kinds of shit have happened on that end, and they can't communicate with each other anymore. That's why you see these guys going out in public, and they're communicating through the news media now, giving their cryptic messages here and there, and that's how they have to communicate. And I'm like, dude, these guys are just, you know, you can see what they're doing. You can actually see it.
The thing with that whole Russian thing, they were going to use that to destroy the Republicans because they knew the election was won.
Yeah,
right?
They thought it was.
And once they lost, they said, hey, what do we do now? Hey, let's use this to hem him up and keep him from doing his job.
Yeah.
And if it was anybody else, they would have caved, and he just kept pushing through, and he, under all of that, he still was able to do his job and keep most of his promises and everything, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
but they were brilliant on the other side, how they, you know, went from collusion to using it as the resistance and all that stuff.
Yeah, but with the Russian investigation, they exposed uranium-1 and all the Clinton stuff.
Well, yeah.
Keep digging, buddy.
I mean, there was one thing that I think Trump capitalized on was after the debate when he said, he didn't say he wasn't going to accept the results of the elections, and the media and all that converted all that to he's not going to accept the results of the elections, right? And then they still thought they were going to win. So he said, I'll tell you when I get there, right? And right away they said, he's not going to accept the results of the election. And then she comes out and she says, this is a threat to our democracy, having a candidate not accept the results of the election. We've always had peaceful transfer.
And now they're not accepting the results of the election.
And they didn't accept it the whole time. And he should have reversed that on them and actually play her words. Yeah. This is the leader of the Democrat Party saying it was a threat to democracy. And by the way, it was a threat to democracy not to accept the result of the elections because it's not a democracy, you know. But they're the ones that didn't accept the result of the elections.
That's right. Like I said, hypocritical apologists. No, I think it's just hilarious to watch them.
Yeah, it's interesting times.
I mean, I can only handle the news for so long because it's just a bunch of talking idiots up there who are just lathering.
That's why I'll have to give it 25 years. I don't watch it.
But I have watched it. And
as long as you had success. It was working.
That'll call it programming went up.
Well, now, you've given me a great idea there because I was offering a third of what there. That's a huge win for Trump for after the election. To use to put us in a better position financially. So So,
Well, it's an asset they can put in the treasury because the debt's going away.
right?
All right, the debt was a result of a wartime experience, of wartime, and when you come out of war, all the debt has to go away. You can't
Right.
saddle someone with debt unless you get into a new treaty with them, like Germany.
It'll be like a jubilee.
Well, that's another aspect
Exactly.
of sovereignty too.
This is all part of a jubilee experience because
There'll be tribulation and then jubilee. I always said that when this whole election thing was going on.
Yeah, sovereign can't be in debt.
right.
Oxymoron.
Well, can be in debt, but not to
No.
the system, can be in debt to other men.
Which is how the Rothschilds originally got it, right? They took the kings into debt. They loaned them this paper money, this fractional lending situation.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, but they were also
Because
in
of the
debt.
power to tax.
They were also indebted.
Actually, there was several, just like Wells Fargo, a bunch of gold came up missing from one of the German families that they were holding a bunch of gold for as part of their money
So they were.
operation.
Well, Germany
I
wanted
still
the
think
gold
it all
in the
emanates
loan
out of
fund.
China anyway.
It is China right now.
I think all this emanates right out of China when the Templars and Marco Polo supposedly went over there to visit them, and then all of a sudden the fractional system of lending came up, and I'm like, okay, that was the other thing they imported from China
Well, I think there's
because
a
this is
reason.
all Chinese. This is
there's
all part of their banking
A lot of
system.
the gold holdings, you've got so much in assets, at least.
Because I remember they were talking that big thing about the dragon families. And the dragon families are going to release all their gold. I was like, yeah, you're going to trade one master for another. How retarded is that thinking?
I've seen a personal check from somebody affiliated with the old Chinese dynasty that was enough to pay off the national debt. Now, it might be over 10 years ago.
And then as soon as they pay off the national debt, and now that dynasty becomes the creditor.
Right.
Anybody who offers to pay off the debt is just offering to be a new master.
A new creditor, right?
So the only way to do it is to forgive it all and go through the jubilee.
Well, you got the Leo Wanta funds, you got the Peru bonds, the
Yeah,
gold
all
bonds,
that's going away because all that's derived from the same stuff. So you're gonna see the tribulations, like you said, tribulations, and then the jubilee. So get ready for the tribulations because everything's coming.
What do you know about the big gold cache in the Grand Canyon? Anything about that?
Well, according to Fix Weir, there's more gold, there's many times more gold than there is on the surface.
Yeah.
There's like, well, did you remember that movie, that old Western movie called McKenna's Gold?
I don't know
That was an old one. At the very end, there's this whole wall of this canyon that's gold. It's in the Grand Canyon. And I guess that's more true than we know. And they've, since the Wilson administration, they have blocked off, they turned it into a national park, and they won't let anybody in there.
Yeah, nobody goes.
That's right.
See, gold, European and whatever, gold has been used as a monetary unit, but I think it's more for energy and other things. I think that's where its true value
It's more
is.
circuit boards.
Yes.
Circuit boards and
Circuit
circuitry.
boards, but I mean, it's, if you look at, it's gold. Gold will elevate your thinking, at a very, very high level.
Monatomic gold, I've heard of
That's
that.
exactly
And it'll
correct.
consume your mind in the process.
Well, I don't know, I'm just saying, it has, people were a lot healthier when you had gold and silver as currency, because you picked up a little bit residual. I mean, the benefit of silver,
It's interesting.
So.
Yeah, there's lots of stories like that, and some people say that it's the manna. The reason the children of Israel were supposed to live on manna in the desert, or did, was because it was this monatomic gold. But, so who knows? I know that...
I'm just saying that, the monetary value is a lesser thing. I mean, if you take a look at energy and conductivity and other things,
Right.
I see that as being...
Well, not only that, it can actually shield the radiation of vessels.
That's why you can't have lead paint.
Yeah, I know.
You can't have lead paint because it creates a...
That's been my long time
a
thinking
shield.
that they removed lead from the paint in the 70s and 80s, not because people were eating it, but because they couldn't send their little laser beams and microwaves
Exactly
to it.
correct.
And they want to test your blood to see if you have any in it,
Yeah.
if you have kids, so, yeah.
Let's see. I'm on the Faro site here. How do I...
No, faro.gov.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
And I think that there's a lot more credibility to all of that, because we all know how they like to have their thumb on us and monitor us and surveil us and all the rest of it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, all of that's consistent with that. We're just about done for today, actually.
Okay, here we go. And then
I guess the question is, what I was thinking is we could do a presentation on asset protection tomorrow if you're interested.
What on the page?
Do
So
you
this
remember
paragraph
when
right here.
Allardyce formulator came up with,
I also have it, on the site
Matches that
itself.
can
I
be-
snapshot the page.
Oh, yeah?
what do you call it?
Yeah, all my pages on the website are all
Satisfied
snapshot.
or
Okay, but I gotta
like
get.
one silver
I
real
really
dollar?
appreciate
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
though.
yeah.
You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah,
it's,
that's true. Matter of fact, they talked about it where they could actually, Congress could mint a, in today's, this was back 20 years ago, and Congress could mint a $6 trillion coin and roll it down to the Federal Reserve, however size they wanted to make it.
I'm not looking to run away.
And pay off
I'm not looking to run away from it.
And,
I'm looking to
so
harness it.
nowadays it'd be 20 trillion, but,
Why would you run
and then
away
there's
from
the
what
issue
God
of
created? He allowed all this to be
the
for
money
a
that's
reason.
disappeared.
You're
Right? They're talking
And
about,
I think it's
there's,
separation, and that's
Catherine
the
Austin Fitz
whole thing.
has said that,
Which one is it?
and there's actually other people that are coming out and saying that too. There's some accountants.
Resonate with you.
Like there's a guy that's got a PhD in accounting. He's an accounting professor at a university. And he's saying he's gone through the records and there's well over $20 trillion that's unaccounted for. And so, and in fact, I've read some emails about how they have actually,
Look how long, look at what it's done now. I mean,
the inspector generals of each department are investigating all of this, and they're coming up with all sorts of money that's been stolen, and there's people hear about all of these indictments. Well, it's in these emails it says that this guy was indicted and plea bargained it, and this guy, and there was 3 or 4 indictments in this department, and that were convicted, and so there's a bunch of indictments that people aren't hearing about that are being taken into the courts, convicted, and that kind of stuff. You see what I'm saying? But the real big people haven't been yet. I think what it is they're building a case, and so they want to build a case and make it as strong and powerful as possible, and that takes time. And I think Hillary is one, and Obama is another, and maybe what's his face, the former Attorney General Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch. I've heard that some of them have turned over and started singing big time because as part of a plea deal, like I heard that because Lindsey Graham used to be big time.
I got something here.
What?
Holder is going to try and get Wiener out of jail and run on the ticket for 2020 under the Holder Wiener ticket.
There you go.
Glenn lost his train of thought.
Anyways, these indictments, people are you don't hear about it on the news, but the indictments are happening, and so, what's that? It is recording. Anyways.
What do you think it's session?
I don't know. I don't really know what to think about any of these guys anymore.
It's too late to really start something now at this point.
You're just saying something about Lindsey Graham there a minute ago.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham went and he used to be, he was one of the never Trumpers.
Yeah, he was a bit of a rhino.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he's changed his tune.
Yes.
And I think it's because somebody basically, it was like, what's his name? Who's the guy that's former FBI, head of the FBI, and now he's running this? Mueller.
Oh, right.
Well, there's another guy that's, and I can't remember his name, but he's on YouTube videos. But he said that Mueller, before Trump, before he was appointed to do that job, he went and visited with Trump for 5 hours. And
He's a Marine. He's an ex-Marine.
who?
Mueller.
Yeah. But the point is that Mueller went and visited with Trump for 5 hours. Now, nobody visits with Trump for 5 hours, okay? And I think that, and this guy thought that, and I think he's probably right. I think that Trump said, basically, he said, this is what we got on you. You know what I mean? And either you're going to follow our program here, or you're going to go and spend a lot of time in Crowbar Hotel.
Yeah, right.
You see what I'm saying? And it took Trump 5 hours to demonstrate what we got on you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Make a believer out of it.
yeah, and so all of this stuff. Trump is the master of deals. He's the master of playing the illusion of
he's strategy.
Strategy.
Yeah,
Strategy. And so he sits there and he sets it all up, and it follows the sequence of events, and he sits there. You see him sending out. He's a fisherman, like we were saying earlier. He's a great fisherman. He sits there and throws out the bait, and they took it, and then he reels them in.
I still think that Jared Kushner, when they met with the Russian diplomats, he was giving them the evidence on Uranium One.
I think you're right.
No doubt.
He was transferring, just like when he went to Kenya, or the Kenyan president and his wife showed up at the White House.
Yeah.
He immediately had a senator go down to Kenya to talk to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're probably like, what'd you give him?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, what'd you give Trump? What'd you give Trump? Because that'd be the only reason the Kenyan diplomat, the Kenyan president's wife would show up at Trump's house.
Right.
And they go, hey man, we got something here, let's visit.
Right.
Milena is multilingual.
Yeah.
She can talk Russian, so they could have talked or transferred information without an interpreter.
Correct.
Well, and you know, there's Trump gave, or I should say, Putin gave Trump the soccer ball. There's stories that it was full of thumb drives, full of, you know.
I mean, it's everything, and now they're just playing it up in the media that they're against each other.
Right.
And Putin's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
He's doing his thing.
Right.
They're down in Syria and everything else, and they're actually fighting against the Israelis. They're not fighting against the Syrian rebels. The Syrian rebels are Israelis in disguise.
Yeah.
And I think they're down there doing that.
And I think
the media is reporting it as something else because they've been reporting everything as something else.
yeah, they're a bunch of idiots.
Well, Russia can pretty much knock out ISIS.
But I think that, like Trump doing that thing where he went and moved the embassy to Jerusalem,
Right.
I think that he wanted to look neutral when they indict who's the Prime Minister of Israel? Netanyahu. I bet you they're building a case against him.
A good possibility.
And so he didn't want to look anti-Jewish when they do that. You see what I'm saying? So he moved the embassy to Israel to show that and now when they indict Netanyahu, I mean, he's not going to look anti-Jewish at all. You know what I mean?
It'll be a quicker grab.
It will be. And so of course the Palestinians are pissed. But I think things will happen for the Palestinians too, you know. But anyways, so you know, he's reeling them in, and I think that
He's going to reel in the Congress. I mean, the lobby for Israel, the Israeli lobby, because they're the ones who have control of the congressional members.
Oh yeah.
They're the ones who have real control. AIPAC.
Right, AIPAC. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, but I breath AIPAC.
Yeah, they're going to get rid of those guys. Those guys are actually influencing politics more than anybody else in history.
Well,
they control the media.
Southern Poverty Law Center is tied to Israel, to the Anti-Defamation League and all the rest of it. And I think he's just reeling everybody in and building a case against them. And I think that he's more on top of it than we know.
How many of the congressmen and senators are dual citizenship?
Well, that's a
lot
good
of
question.
You notice you remember the stories about how they were buying land in New Zealand? All these congressional laws.
Right.
New Zealand just passed a law saying if you don't surrender your camera and your laptop, you can't enter the country, and we're going to charge you $5,000 for it.
Right.
Well,
they're going to
coming in?
Yep. If
Yes.
you're a foreigner. If you do not allow us to go through your cameras and your laptops and everything else, so I think they're preventing the running of the senators to go to New Zealand to their farmland.
Interesting.
Because they're all buying farmland down
That
there.
just happened a few days ago,
It
right?
happened like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. I
I saw that and I was like, look at this. New Zealand's cutting off the back door.
They've been buying up land down in South America for the last few years too.
Yeah, and that's all cut off too. Bushes were the big ones, but I think all those are going to be cut off. And even if they're not going to be able to afford the protections.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have no money, so therefore they can't buy their little private army.
Well, and I've heard that like even Loretta Lynch has basically turned, and she's like singing big time. I heard that there's a bunch of them that are giving state's evidence big time, and so at the end of the day, who knows? I know that there's a bunch of indictments that have already gone down, and people are already. Money's assets have been seized, and all the rest of it. Right now, I think it's chump change compared to the national debt, but I think it's a progress. It's a work in progress.
So
It takes time.
how do you have negative money?
Well, what we got now is negative money, right?
Well, we have a debt that acts as money.
Yeah, there you
But it
go.
can never be money.
Yeah, well, that's right.
You know?
But so anyways, and so Trump is doing all the right things. All of this stuff with the so-called trade war that he's doing with China, well, he's got to bring jobs back to America. Okay, we have to eliminate that trade deficit, and so he's doing the right
Well, I
things.
also believe that China is Rothschild influence.
Well, and
Yeah,
And
right,
they've all got their little banks and stuff down in there, so
Well-
it's actually not a war against China, it's a war against interests of the Rothschilds and,
Right.
and those rogue agents.
and
What do you think of the economic free zones that China has in every state?
well, and there's a lot of reason to believe that it may have been China when the Democrats are busy accusing China. Hillary was selling secrets to China, and so there's a lot of reason to believe that it was China that was interfering in our elections, and China is the one that's really to be concerned about.
Oh, did you see the small chip they found on the
computers?
On the computers?
No.
Alright,
they've
the
been-
boards built in China, they had a backdoor chip on all the
Diebold voting machines?
No, it wasn't
No, no,
Diebold.
no. Something on all
These
the
went into
computers.
all, like Google, Amazon,
The
all
motherboards.
yeah.
On the motherboard.
Just a little tiny chip that they can access the whole
What's
board.
that? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
that whole interference in the election is actually a ruse, because it's a good way for them to explain away that, we couldn't have lost. There had to have been some crazy thing that was going on.
Of course,
Yeah.
that's true.
It's an
But
excuse.
but still, I mean, with these Diebold election machines and all the rest of it, you could see that it would be easy
Very easy.
to manipulate it. And I think that there was manipulation, but I think it was this Rothschild crowd, and it certainly wasn't the Russians.
Yep.
And
The book Black Box Voting exposes how they manipulate it.
oh,
It's a
no
good
doubt,
book.
yeah, no doubt. So at any rate, it's a little late to be starting something new. But what I was thinking tomorrow is we do some asset protection. But I'm going to need everybody to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Did we go through asset protection last time? Oh, we
Yeah,
did.
and we did
Oh,
sign.
then we didn't need to. We don't need to do that.
Well, the new people do.
Yeah, you
Well,
go
I'm
through
not
it.
going to make everybody go through that.
No, you go through
No, I mean for the
For the NBA.
non-disclosure. That's what I was talking about.
If I go
People
through
have
it, but
signed,
I don't want to go through it again a second time. But so then we'll do. I don't know. I'll have to think about what we're going to talk about. But we could do. State of Texas doesn't exist, but I think we already all know that. But if you want to go through the video or the material, then we can do that. Or I don't know. I mean, what's some ideas? Last time I had an agenda and things that I wanted to go through, and then because everybody had their own idea on what we wanted to do, it all got thrown up in the air. So this time I didn't prepare an agenda. So
Well, a good one would be the right to travel, because
Okay.
a prime example of
yeah,
what happens when you get stopped by the
Right.
roads in cars,
okay,
and how you end up dealing with them, and the difference in the legislation, because you've done a discovery of all sorts of stuff for the legislation for Texas,
right.
and you've done others for maybe other
Yeah,
states.
'cause
Right.
right now, I really need to figure out what I need to do, and I love what was just given.
I think
Yeah, that's
I
the
think
way-
I think he's got the answer for you.
We were talking about before the fact.
My biggest thing I'm interested in is the land.
That's a good guy.
Yeah.
The land.
Title,
Property
all
tax.
that.
Property
Yeah,
tax.
property tax.
We did that last time
I
too.
know you said that.
Like really important.
Yeah, but you
That's
did land,
That's my
land
primary
patents to
thing,
deal
is
with
I
that.
pay
Is there another
attention
way
to-
that can be gone? Because as I mentioned, I'm not sure it was to you, but there's a guy called Steve Emerson
Uh-huh.
out of Florida whose
Well, wait a minute.
whose technique, let's say, is getting people out of the tax roll, so the property taxes don't need to be paid. But
Yeah.
it's basically using the Constitution and the right to property, and then unjust enrichment and all this other stuff that
Right.
the property tax offices are guilty of.
Right.
So it's that kind of information, so that people can just go down to the local tax assessor, shove this on them, and say, I want my property off the tax roll.
Well, first of all, it's not going to be as simple as that because every state is different.
Yeah.
And so, all taxes, they're all federal. Okay, whether it's state or federal is actually federal. All
Yes,
taxes are
Because
federal.
everything is a subsidiary of the corporation, right?
They all started happening in 1861 and 1862. One of them, and I'm not sure which one was which, but in 1861 there was two acts. One was passed in 1861 and the other one was passed in 1862. One of them was for sales taxes. The other one was for property taxes. And those have been amended over the years, but that's where it all got started.
Right.
And so it's all federal, and so the key is to not be a person, right? Now, as far as what Boris talks about, I mean, he's got some great ideas, but so you're going to have to decide which approach you're going to take. I have here a Walmart tax exempt. So if anybody wants to buy anything at Walmart, we can go and do that while we're here, and I'll get it tax exempt. Okay, I do this all the time. It's never a problem.
That's just for Walmart though?
Yes,
Why is it just Walmart?
because Walmart is the one that issued it.
I mean, you could go to Lowe's.
There's a friend of mine that he's passed away now, but he went to Walmart and got this tax exempt thing, and he actually, what happened is we brought forward the land patent on his house.
Okay.
He had a house in Basel, Texas, and it was on a lake. It was like about $170,000 house. It was a pretty nice area, and his neighbor.
Are you leaving?
Are
you leaving?
I'm going to be
Sorry.
back.
His neighbor.
Because we're going to take a picture outside, a group picture,
All right.
when we're done.
His neighbor was the mayor of Basel, okay? And so, anyways, he refused to pay the property taxes, and we brought forward the land patent, which made it so that they really couldn't proceed, but they were harassing him.
Yeah.
And then he died, and his wife and kids, they didn't care.
Right.
And so what happened was they went ahead and foreclosed and sold it at a tax sale, and his wife, they moved out. That when it got sold at the tax sale, the neighbor bought it, the mayor.
The mayor did.
Okay, yeah. But we had brought forward the land patent, and this is the power of the land patent. Okay, because what happened is that mayor was talking to a friend of mine in Basel, and a friend of mine told me about his conversation with the mayor, and the mayor said that land patent had made it impossible for him to get a bank loan. The banks would not touch it.
Yeah.
And he had to get a friend to loan him, $170,000 less. It was actually the whole 170 because he bought the house, right? And then part of it went to pay the extortion, and the other part went to the family.
Transfer tax?
No, the property tax.
Well, you pay the transfer tax and the...
No, there's no property transfer tax in Texas.
Oh, okay.
So if there
Every
was-
state has a different deal.
Right.
Yeah, if
Most
it was
of
a
them have
tax
some
taking,
transfer
he would just have to buy the tax. He might have been refinancing to get money out or whatever, but all he had to pay was the tax. When there's a tax taking,
tax sale,
let's
all
say
the
there's like
tax.
$27,000 due, and they do a tax taking and sell the house to sell it at that. It goes to the highest bidder, or if they have like a tax, I forget what it's called, then you could buy it and there's a right of redemption.
There is.
Right.
Every state has that, but
He might have been trying to refinance to get cash out or
No.
sell something else.
no. In Texas, I don't know about other states,
Yeah.
but in Texas, well, it's they had several people that were bidding on this, and maybe it bid it up to $170,000.
Then
See
if
what
they
I'm
don't
saying?
over-
yeah,
Which was the value of the property,
And then they take
and then the
tax
first
and get the
portion
rest back.
goes
Yeah.
to the property taxes, and then the balance goes to the seller, the owner.
Right.
And in Texas, they give you a quit claim deed. Okay, that's what you get when you buy a property at a tax sale. And so, anyways, this mayor had to get a friend to loan him the $170,000 because the banks wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Now, another thing I've heard with these land patents is that if you bring forward the land patent, then the title companies will actually tell you you'll never get title insurance on this property. And actually, that's perfect.
Sure.
Because
That's why the banks won't
It's a
touch it.
superior title out of the fuel
The
system.
banks won't touch it because you can't get title insurance.
Right.
Therefore, they have
Well-
no way to recoup their losses in case if it goes bad.
well, and yeah, that's right. But there's all sorts of court cases that say that no equitable interest can prevail against the land patent. So
Yeah, it's a superior
so
title.
it's a superior title. So the same thing with the title companies, because the title company has to have an insurable interest.
So that family, if they were smart, they could go recoup it from the mayor.
They could. They could. They didn't care.
I know,
So
but they could
if they would have, that's their choice, right?
Right, I'm not saying
They
it's-
obviously didn't do the work that took to,
Well,
buy
I
the
talked to
property.
them on numerous occasions and told them what exactly we were doing and how we were doing it and all that stuff. And
They were
But if they
empathetic.
took any money, then doesn't that basically, didn't the value of the land patent go to the new people? Like, if they took it,
It's not
they
his
had a
property.
contract to sell the land at that point.
the people got
They would've
money,
had- right.
and so the mayor well, the banks wouldn't loan on the house for the mayor to buy the house. But now the mayor can probably turn around and sell it, and the banks will probably loan money for that. You see what I'm saying?
With a quick claim deed, yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah,
actually,
because they quick claimed it,
after the
now you got
mayor,
a deed shift.
after the mayor's in that house for 7 years, now he's possession's 9/10 of the law, right?
So does a
Yeah,
land
squatters'
patent
rights
go
at that point.
forever on the, or does it transfer to someone else?
What happens is if they sell it again, even the mayor, when he bought the land, did he pay gold or silver coin? Does the
No.
deed say on it that he paid gold or silver
No.
coin?
No,
Probably not.
no,
And
probably.
so then he got color of title.
Right.
So therefore, the land patent is superior.
Well, it is, but they basically nullified it by doing what they did.
By taking the money.
By
taking the
they
money.
gave it back to the government.
Right, they put it back in under the auspices of the.
Sesticate Trust.
Well, with a quick claim deed, it would have been come back in the public
The
record.
mayor could bring the land patent forward to himself.
He could, but
And then,
could, yeah.
but he doesn't
doesn't.
care because he wants to go to the bank.
he's a communist.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, that should have been done through a trust, where the property and the land patent remain the same,
Well, but
and now
you
the
can't-
trusteeship.
you can't do it with a trust.
A land patent
Because
is
a
not
trust,
one.
a trust falls under the definition of a corporation under Title 15, United States Code, Section 44.
Land patent is.
And so a trust falls under that definition of a corporation
trust?
and is therefore required to pay the tax.
What
So
type
many
of trust?
different types
Any kind of trust, I don't care. Any kind of trust.
Common law trust and there's a few that don't fall under that.
Well, no, they do, actually. Have you read it? I could pull it up if you'd like.
International private
They
law
do.
trust?
Huh?
An international private law trust?
I don't care what kind of trust.
A
It's a
trust is a
fictitious
person.
entity and it falls under the definition.
A trust is a
Over-
person, doesn't matter what kind of trust it is, it's always gonna be a person under the laws.
So
And,
a
and,
land pa- a
and
land
it,
patent
it's
includes-
required to pay the tax.
What type of, and when you bring a land patent forward, is it in the name of a person?
It's gotta be in the name of a living man or
You
woman,
only
for
do
sure,
that.
for sure.
And then you can take that patent and put it into the trust.
No,
After it's
well, if
already
you
in your
wanted
name.
to, but why would you want to?
Right.
Because when you have it in your name,
Title don't
it's
have-
unassailable. It
Right.
cannot be touched
So can-
under any
so a
reason
land
for
patent-
anything.
Can that be?
No debtor could ever touch it. Nothing.
And what happens?
You
when-
could have all the debts in the world and they can't take your land from you.
What happens when?
That was the
living-
intent of Congress when they passed that act in 1820. What?
What happens when the living man passes on?
It goes to his heirs, right?
And then so basically by virtue of a will, the patent follows that.
No, the
It-
patent
it-
is
As an
not
assignee.
forward.
Here's what I say
it
about
could.
the transfer of properties when you're, before you die. Why don't everybody just transfer it while you're living to the other party?
Yeah,
And we
really,
will avoid
really,
all that, right?
really. Yeah, no joke.
Well, one of the biggest
Don't wait
issues
until
is
you die.
taxes, though.
Don't
If
wait.
you don't do it right, they get you for the taxes on the transfer.
Well, if there's
That's
no,
true.
hold on. If there's no taxes on the land patent, then how is there taxes on the transfer of the land patent?
No, well, on the land patent, that's something completely different.
Right.
I'm talking about just generally, when,
No,
asset
I'm talking-
protection is something again, but when you do a living transfer, then they treat it like capital gains or an
No,
inheritance.
no,
Alright.
there's no capital gains, it's for.
All right, now
it's for-
here's how you get
What most
around that.
people do, what most people do, like farmers and stuff like that, is they just quit claim it to their son or their daughter.
No,
Right?
you know how you get around that? The naked ownership goes to the one you want to transfer it to. The usufruct remains with the one who's using it, and now you just collapse it when the one dies, it reverts
Right.
to the
And
naked
another
owner,
way
and
to
now
do it-
now you get around it. I've already looked this up in Louisiana estate planning. That's how they do it.
Another way to do it is do it to your name, whoever else you want with right of survivorship.
Yeah.
One dies, it continues with the others.
That's how they estate plan in Louisiana with the usufruct. So the children would get the disposal rights of the house with the condition that the mother cannot leave, the mother cannot be kicked out or vacated.
And a life estate.
And then she would get a life estate in it, and as soon as she dies, the rest of it would revert to the child and avoids probate.
Right.
So as long as you avoid
That's
probate,
the
you
type of
avoid
a
the
trust.
taxes.
Yeah.
But does the land patent come forward and still there's no property tax?
Well, in that case, in that situation, there'd probably be property tax.
Exactly,
Because
my
it's a,
question-
Actually, I wouldn't think there'd be property tax, because if you're the ultimate owner of this land, and that land patent says, I'm the ultimate owner, I can give the naked ownership to anybody I want, and then the usufruct can remain, and then the usufruct can then transfer over upon my death.
I would think there'd be more of a problem outside of the inheritable line, lineage.
Yeah, that
If,
would.
because if you look-
if there's a lineage of inheritance, then the land patent, but if it goes out of that,
Then again, I
No,
thought
because
Trump
the
got rid
land
of the
patents, if you
death
look
on
at the
the
wording
death
of
on
most
death
land
tax.
patents,
Maybe that's
it
part of
says
part of it.
I thought he got rid of it.
inheritance as
Well,
an
so I hear this-
He
assignee.
nuked it.
Assignees could be
could be anybody, right? If it's
Yeah,
a
and
sign.
So
that's-
if you
it says
sell the
that-
property, then that then becomes the assignee
That's true.
portion of
And
the
the
land.
land
That's
patent
true.
is the heirs
But
assigned-
so what most parents do, or like farmers and stuff like that, is they'll say one of their kids, you get the West 40 over
Right.
there, and it just gives them a quick claim deed, and possession's 9/10 of the law, so they're over living on it for who knows how long. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's people I know in Arizona who were granted land. They have a land patent on this land from like the 30s, and they just pass it on from father to son.
Yeah, sure.
And now there's like several kids that are on it, so they just have it divvied up, and they've never been on any tax rolls, and they've never paid any property taxes.
And what they do is they bring the land patent for their portion, bring it forward to them, and then the other ones bring it forward to them, and now the land patent has moved forward to whoever's got that part.
Actually, they don't even have to bother because the land is. What happens is they just do a quick claim from father to son. You see what I'm saying? And I mean, it never makes it into the county records.
Right, but they can bring it forward if they want, for their
If they
portion.
wanted to,
Yeah.
but it's by definition, that, I mean, because they're sitting on it,
But I
it's
put- I
possession's 9/10 of the law.
Yeah, I could claim property, but we have the trust, I said, my mother set up the trust that cannot be brought into a court or law. And so, because it was completely sovereign under international private law, and it was accepted by the State Department.
Right,
So, no bank will lend on that.
right,
They don't want they won't allow you to open an account
right.
on that trust because they know that they can't collect on it.
You don't want to open an account on that. Matter of fact, and that's when my asset protection private information share portion, that's one of the things that and I'll show you this tomorrow, is my I manage a trust called Texas American Holdings, and I manage a limited liability company called American Engineering Services. But the thing is that all I'm a manager, okay? The trust owns the limited liability company. The limited liability company is a pass-through entity.
Right.
So all the money it makes goes to the partners. The trust is one of the partners. And actually, I shouldn't even be telling you this without a non-disclosure agreement. But so it's all the limited liability company is what's out front, what everybody sees, and the trust, nobody sees it. And it's kind of like a silent partner, and I'm just a manager of it all.
Well,
I don't own it.
I did a declaration of the trust, and then I also took that declaration to to have the church, and also in that declaration I put the private property I declared, which included
So you were the grantor.
they included names Yeah.
So they could pierce that trust.
Well, actually, I was a grantor by fraud. My mother was a grantor.
Well, you know, is your mom still alive?
No.
Okay,
That's where the fraud happened.
that's
After she
where. So then it might be, you know.
Actually, I had another declaration of the trust that they could not, that Wells Fargo committed a fraud in it, but I had that notarized at Wells Fargo. So I decided they were going to notarize the fact that they committed a fraud, and that's on that declaration. I had the Vatican, or a Catholic witness and a Catholic, notary, notarized the fact that the Catholics got rid of, don't have any rights to the sesquiview of that trust whatsoever, and that all those names were owned by the, and their birthrights were owned by the trust.
Right.
And so I had that done in the Vatican property, so the Vatican would be notarizing that they accept that.
Wow, that's pretty good. I'd say getting the Vatican to do it. I never knew that people could get that. Now, did I do asserting sovereignty last time? I know that you seem to be quite interested in that, and I probably didn't do that, did
Why
I?
don't we take a poll of like 2 or 3 different topics, and then based on that.
We could do asserting sovereignty, which is basically what happened with me and how I got into this, and you know, how I came to start asserting myself. You know, we could do that.
Well, you succeeded in the court system too.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I've been to the Supreme Court 5 times, and every time.
Yeah, but did you go in?
Huh?
Did you go in?
No, it's all by mail.
Oh, okay.
It's all by mail.
Well,
Anyways, I can talk about
he
that.
did it administratively.
But they recognize the fact that I'm in the courts. You see what I'm saying? Matter of fact, I've been in the courts. You know, I want to say dozens of times, but it might not be dozens, but certainly a lot of times. And so we can go through that. Okay, so that would be one that we could go through. There's actually what I ought to do is look at some of my.
So you've never held a court of record yet?
Well, with the Republic of Texas,
Right.
I've been involved in common law courts. If that's what you're wondering.
Yeah.
I mean, court of record. I mean, these cities, you know, have a court of record that they're trying to make people think it's some sort of common law jurisdiction, and it's really a bunch of garbage.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Just means there's a transcript.
That means they're
Yeah.
recording it.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And that's only one part of being a common law court.
yeah, it's
Or your
they're trying to
common law
they're
court.
trying to maintain the illusion for the sheeple.
And again, I'm a little unclear that I get the impression that when someone is in one of these courts, they can, by asking 1 or 2 questions, turn it into a common law court, correct?
Well,
You can convert it, but
I doubt it that you'll ever really get. I mean, you never know. I mean, these judges. First of all, it's involving a statute, right? The judge wears a whole bunch of hats. One of them is a common law hat, but it depends on whether he's trying to reel in some revenue, or whether he's neutral and unbiased. You know, most of them are just interested in cranking you through there and getting their extortion.
With the
You know what
cooperation
happened?
of the prosecutor.
Of course,
and
of course.
the-
It's a racket.
Yeah, do you know what will happen when you go into a common law jurisdiction?
No.
Case dismissed.
That's what, so.
Well,
really,
exactly.
that's all-
Actually,
right, so
what will
that was
happen-
what I had been hearing, and I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to confirm.
I've heard of-
that in the local kangaroo court,
I've heard of.
that can happen. And
I've
if
heard
so,
of-
what I-
It can. I've heard of some people going into court where you say, yes, I'm the name. The judge will say, that's fine, you don't have to say anything. And then he'll talk to the prosecutor, and the case will go away.
Yes, I'm the name.
Well, whatever.
No, I'm just asking. I'm trying to.
Well, you see, they need to establish that the name is there, right?
Well, according to this information, Farah.com, that we're appearing as the agent, the registered agent.
Of course. You know, well, if you want to use that tactic, use it. But the thing is they need to establish that somebody's there for the name. Whatever.
Okay.
However you do it, I don't care.
Okay.
The point is the judge will then say that's fine, you don't need to say anything, and the judge will, if he's honoring his oath, what should happen is he should talk to the prosecutor, and the case should then go away.
Yeah, and that's when you've actually been successful in saying that you require a court of record. And they don't want to give it to you on that type of case, they'll let it go. But a real common law court of record is when you open it, and it's your court, then they can't dismiss it.
Without our permission.
Right, because it's your court. The
So
judge is just a
where does
referee.
that happen and how does that happen? I'm just trying to understand.
Oh,
the
it's
semantics.
how you file
It won't happen in those courts.
It's how you file it.
That
That
kind
was
of
my
thing,
question.
that kind of thing, the only way that's gonna happen is when you have a jury of your peers, right?
Could
Like
could
we got together.
So could we have court in that courtroom?
Technically speaking.
Like, could
You
we-
might be
able to.
Could we comment
You might,
here?
you might.
Can we comment
If
here
you
on
went
the
in there,
premises?
if you went in there with 26 witnesses, the judge would probably get out and then you could hold court.
That
Yeah,
would be
and
fine.
then the attorney will turn around and say they can't do this, it's a private bar matter.
Might.
My buddy did that with 25 people, and that's exactly what the attorney did.
No, but
Judge,
was it
I can't,
nobody's
I
case?
object, this is a private bar matter, and the judge said there's nothing I can do.
Right, exactly.
But it
was
didn't settle the matter.
But what we're talking about is you going in and opening your own case.
Exactly. That's my
Then they
question.
can't say it's a private bar
You're-
matter.
you're-
What you're doing is you're basically renting the courtroom
For free.
to hold your court.
Exactly.
Well, it might not be for free.
Why not?
But because they may have a fee. I don't know. It
Okay,
depends what
whose
case,
court
depends
is
what
it?
court, depends. But the point is you're opening your own court. The court is the paper that was filed. Each case that's called opens a new court, right? So most people think it's the building, it's the
Right,
judge.
that makes
It's
sense.
actually the case
The
itself.
case
I've
itself.
had, this is, and again, I say this is a major failing of the churches.
No, this is
Because canon law is a totally different subset of law. I've met two gentlemen, one in D.C., he was a canon law attorney. He was a bar card carrying attorney, but he practiced canon law, which is tough to find guys like that.
Yeah.
And up in New Hampshire, I found a retired priest who was versed in canon law. I started conversing with him on different things, and he shut down, man. He shut down, faster than a bull's butt at flight
They
time.
don't want to talk to somebody that
No.
knows more than them.
Well, the thing is, canon law is, like I say, it operates in comity with existing law. It's a totally different subset of law. And what you establish as your canons, your belief system, again, common law. Common law is outside of their system. Because that's commerce. Oh, push to that. Canon law operates the same way. It's in comity.
Ecclesiastical law?
Comity. Yeah, ecclesiastical law or canon law. But canon law, canon law, whatever you establish as canons. The Bible, as it's organized, 66 books. That's a Masonic number. That's the official canon. There are more books that they don't include, okay? But that's the official canon. So the canonical aspect of that is based on your belief system. That's why you put your hand on the Bible when you take the oath and all this other stuff. But now if you're a Muslim, you're not going to use that. Your canon is the Quran, okay? And that's why they establish Sharia law in their little enclaves. Wherever they...
When everything consolidates back into one law again.
Well, it does, but the thing is, the consolidation is based on covenant. You got three monotheistic faiths, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Not one of them honors or gives respect to Abrahamic law. They all fail. And that's the key. But you're right, it all goes back to that point.
But really, the real law is natural law.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
But natural law is really found in the Bible, too.
Yeah.
And that
Now-
law is executed by the common law jury in
That's
our
true.
system.
That's
which
true.
is why
That's true. And that's why we did the
jury of our peers.
the common law jural assembly.
Yeah, Scripture
Right.
says no one but a brother should rule over you.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, right.
Now, because that
um,
brother's required to know the law as you are, so it's a perfect check and balance system.
Well, that's why they changed
another
that
one
in
I
court,
was thinking
because
about
it's an
doing-
administrative
It's
judge
local.
and then an ecclesiastical judge. There's at least two. An administrative judge who's just a clerk,
Yeah.
basically, has been touted, and ecclesiastical is the next one, and that's when they can do pretty much what they want, because then you're in a different
Right.
jurisdiction,
Mhm.
and then you're in trouble because you have to know what you're doing in that particular jurisdiction. And then when you are forcing yourself into a common law situation or a common law jurisdiction, that's when you leave and don't come back.
Yeah.
Right, that's asserting the sovereignty of the common law right, correct? Or not?
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of where, which is fine, because we really just don't want to be bothered with it. We're not here to, we're just here to stop whatever is happening.
And there's many types of common law, depending on where you're at.
But you might have you have a private contract, and you have a lien, they can't interfere with that. They have to
Well,
allow you-
contract law is different. I mean, they're talking about equity and based on terms of contract.
Well, also depends on what type of contract. Is it man-to-man or corporation-to-corporation?
That's right.
We could do this one, how to make your own judgment. That would be, that no court would ever dispute.
That sounds pretty good.
That's a good one, yeah, that's a good one.
All right, so at 10 o'clock tomorrow?
That's one, okay, now we gotta do several, at least tomorrow and Sunday, so we got tomorrow and Sunday.
Tomorrow is Sunday.
Okay, tomorrow and Monday then. You're right. I'll let you have that one.
I thought it was a Texas week, 2 Sundays.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
2 Sundays, 2 Sundays.
Do Sundays in
And
Texas.
then we got 3 days to work.
Hey, I like that. Tomorrow, John 17:3.
Yeah, Margaritaville,
available on
5
one
o'clock
retreat?
somewhere, right?
Yeah, John
Yeah.
17:3.
Yeah, well, all of those, that's actually a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right now, but I'd probably publish this one here because there'd be questions and stuff that wouldn't be in my normal presentation, because normally my YouTube videos are me in a room with, just me, and I'm going through the presentation,
Don't get me started.
But how to make your own judgment. There's another one for administrative procedures right here. Do it yourself right here, which is another one that we could do.
That's how
If you want.
I'm gonna give you a little thing here.
It's similar to an administrative. It's the administrative procedure is a procedure I got from a guy that got himself and 17 other people out of jail. He did it from jail.
Wow.
And he got himself and 17 people out of jail, and then he collected on the bonds of about 40 government officials.
Really?
And they were glad to give it to him.
I'd like to...
Okay, they were glad to give it to him.
Now that one I want
Probably
because
kept it up.
I want to collect on, but I want to go beyond the bond.
But it takes time to do it, and it's not cheap. Okay? But this I got it from the guy. I met the guy, okay? And he was kind of mad at one of his buddies that was in prison because he got his buddy out of jail first, and his buddy was supposed to do it from outside where it would have been easy,
Right.
and his buddy just went out and partied.
I'm free.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't free up on me.
Yeah. So he was upset with his buddy, and his buddy was living next door. Okay, so I met his buddy too. But anyways.
I want to know, I've heard that collecting the bond,
Uh-huh.
like I've heard that,
Uh-huh.
and I kind of get it, but
This-
tomorrow, I'd like it to, like, how does one do that? What are the steps and
Well,
what are the pieces?
This is a procedure that you use where they're glad to give it to you. You're not going to go and file a claim against their insurance or anything like that. Eventually what you'll do is you'll follow this procedure, and then you'll file a lawsuit and ask the judge for a declaratory judgment only. Okay, and then once you get that declaratory judgment, then the lawyers are calling you up and wanting to settle the matter, and that's when you tell them you want their bond. Not a penny less than a bond. Not a penny more, not a penny less.
So the bond has a value.
Of course it
ahead of
does.
time?
Of course it
So we
does.
know how much that is?
Depends on the position they hold. Okay?
Got it.
Prison guards have a much smaller bond than police officers or than judges.
Is that-
Judges
Well, a
have
judge can't execute a bond beyond his bond limit, right?
but they
mean,
have a
charge
bond.
the-
I think
the
judges
one thing
have
that the
like
judge-
about a $5 million
Right,
bond, and it
right.
depends on the position, the type of judge he is.
And so
Okay.
each action also has a bond.
Sorry?
Each action also has its own bond.
Well, the lawsuits themselves it's called errors and omissions insurance. And when you pay the filing fee, you pay for the errors and omissions insurance. That's why I never pay a filing fee. But in this case, you're probably going to have to do that because otherwise they won't proceed. Okay? And so you're going to have to pay the filing fee
Of
and
the-
jump through the hoops.
Of the filing fee of the suit, of the...
Yeah.
Court.
Because eventually that's what you have to do. You'll do a procedure, and then you will file a lawsuit, and we'll talk about it. If you want to go through that.
No, I'm just putting that out there, that is something that I need to understand tomorrow.
Right.
About
Hmm.
collect the bond.
Right.
Who's collected a bond? How did it happen? What did it mean at the end
Right.
of the day?
Right. Well,
No, I'm just asking. It's rhetorical.
it depends on how much the bond was,
So
but
tomorrow you could answer that in real
I mean,
world terms.
some guards and cops, their bond is like $15,000.
Okay.
What if they don't have a bond?
Well,
Then it's called self-insurance.
that's and
And everything they have is part of their bond.
well, there's actually federal statutes that define what they're liable for. Okay, like there's a federal statute that says for every violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 241, it's $250,000. And so then 242, every felony violation is $250,000.
And they commit
There's
them
a
all
federal
the time.
statute that talks about that.
Yeah, they commit them all the time.
Oh, they do.
When this cop detained me, I told her that I'd be billing them $200,000 per hour of detention or part thereof. And she actually put it in her
report?
Did she really? Yes.
Well, they're laughing at you, right?
Yeah.
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 They're mocking you.
But I would get a copy if you're going to do anything.
I got it.
I would get a copy of that police report.
I got it.
And that's all evidence.
Boris, you
'Cause-
want to say something about what people thought?
Yeah, when you're dealing with the IRS, I saw you see a zip code exempt. You actually want to put no congressional district.
My friend uses that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he was told that exactly from the agents, that once you put that in there, they have no jurisdiction over you.
But I wouldn't
Because
believe,
it's all congressional districts.
but I wouldn't believe the agents.
You put zip code
He does,
exempt
they-
and no congressional,
you just put no
No
congressional
congressional
district.
district.
in lieu of that.
Yep.
Right, okay.
That's interesting.
And he also, what else did he find out? That, he went and talked to postmaster of one of the post offices.
Oh, you're talking about
around-
John?
Yeah. No.
In Rhode Island? No?
No.
That's what, I know you talked to him before, and that's what he does.
Yeah, and I talked to another guy in Texas, and he actually gets him to stamps in his passport. Because he says he's coming in from a foreign jurisdiction. And when he said that to the postmaster in Texas, she went outside in the middle of the conversation and lowered the flag. And they came back in and talked to him.
Wow.
And since then, every time he comes in, it says he's from a foreign jurisdiction, and he gets stamps in his passport. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Boy, he has the post office stamp his passport, you're saying?
They put a stamp in the passport and stamp it.
What kind of, I mean, a physical,
Like
postage stamp?
What's the purpose of it?
Yeah,
Or just like a cancellation stamp?
Like a physical stamp, and then they cancel it.
One of their stamps.
Oh, they put a
I see.
stamp.
They put a stamp and then they cancel it.
I did that when I did my
Is there
cars, you know.
a certain stamp that he uses? Is it a dollar stamp or
I'm
something
gonna
like that?
find it here.
Rubber stamp.
And what's the purpose?
Well, the rubber stamp cancels it.
Right,
it's-
I
What's the
understand.
reason?
It's either
Here it is
$1
right
or
here.
$2.
It's a dollar stamp,
Right.
and he goes in and gets them to stamp it, and then he had the same thing with the clerk of the court. You put a stamp in there, and they put their seal on it.
And that's Texas.
Yeah.
What's the purpose?
Oh, he puts the stamp on the front page too. That's one of the visa pages.
Upper
Yeah,
right
that's a visa
corner.
page.
He
is
puts it
where
on
we
the
put it.
visa page,
Right.
and he shows that he's coming in from a foreign jurisdiction into that jurisdiction, and it's like a visa stamp.
Right.
Can you pass it around?
No, I have it on here. I don't have it on anywhere else.
The jurisdiction he's in is his own?
No.
Well, remember, you're always coming in, when you're dealing with a corporate America, you're always coming in from a foreign jurisdiction.
Right.
From
I'm
living,
entering
from the
their
living man,
world.
from the living God's world.
That's right.
To Satan's world.
That's
Or
right.
the land of the dead. So you're always coming in, and he went and did that. And I have the audio.
Land of
recording
New
there.
Jersey
That's-
to the
that's
state
good
of New
evidence.
Jersey. Foreign jurisdiction.
It's like walking into the cemetery.
That's right.
And why do I need to have them validate that.
It's
It's
them
good.
validating that you're not in the state of New Jersey.
It's them
Right.
saying, we realize you're a living.
So, yeah, so now
Yeah.
Not
you
part
have
of-
a government official acknowledging your jurisdiction.
Right.
All right, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
So he's gonna use that stamp passport as evidence if and when he needs it? Or-
Yeah, if he ever needs it, and it shows that he came in from a foreign jurisdiction to mail letters and mail on and record documents. So it's form of foreign jurisdiction. It's like it's technically like a letter rogatory at that point.
Yeah, well, see, if you're setting up here, you know, you're a foreigner in this, and you get a passport as a state citizen national, or state citizen national,
State citizen.
a state's national, sorry, state's national.
Just national, I think.
I'd like to see
Okay.
someone show me that passport because I've never seen it.
Okay.
I've never seen anybody with a passport that says they're state nationals.
No, it doesn't.
They won't say it.
It doesn't.
I mean, you should. I mean, there should be like.
The application.
Actually,
Your
there was
application.
somebody I heard about.
Boris.
If you can get the Secretary of State of one of the states to issue, it's basically a passport letter. It's a letter saying the
I've seen
Secretary of
that.
State of Arizona hereby requests all to whom it may concern to give all lawful aid to Joe Blow, whose image appears hereon. You go and prepare that letter and put your picture on it and take it to them and get them to stamp it. You see what I'm saying?
You should be able to have that notarized in the state and then have it apostate.
Well, and yeah, exactly. You do some things like that. I've heard of people doing that in states, and it basically has the same text that's on the passport. And
I do know all you need to enter the U.S. is a birth certificate. That's it.
Right.
That's one of the original laws. It's God, RB told me about it. He was using it in coming across the border up in Montana. The J Treaty.
Yeah, a lot of them don't honor that though. Up in Canada doesn't honor the J Treaty.
No, when you come back into the U.S.
Oh yeah.
When you're coming
But
back
they-
in, they have to accept the passport as entrance into the U.S.
Because that's what all
I mean,
the
the birth
Haudenosaunee
certificate.
travel under. Like
Huh?
their red card status, the Haudenosaunee, Native Americans travel under the J Treaty. They're supposed to have free passage through, but only the state side recognize it. Canada, they're like, nah, that doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
So I mean, I like
Canada,
some of those
they
things
come
that
back
that Vic Beck brought up in his audio about not needing to use the passport or not getting the passport because you're putting yourself into the matrix. I don't agree with. All right, I don't agree with it for one reason. Is like, okay, so if I wanted to go visit Spain, how do you go from Canada to Spain without a passport?
Well, one way is what he just said.
well, I was
No.
Right, you get
Okay, but how does
Spain
but Spain would
with
have to
Secretary of
recognize it
State.
too.
I have
Right,
what I
that's
have
right.
heard. Okay, a friend of mine was telling me, and this makes a lot of sense. A friend of mine was telling me that what he had heard. Okay, so it's hearsay. But he said that he's heard of people who would go to a foreign country. They'd book the flight, say to Moscow, and so then they send a letter, a fax to the embassy, to the Russian embassy in the country you're in, and say, please be advised that I am traveling from here to Moscow. I'll be arriving on this flight in Moscow on this date and time, and then I'll be leaving on this date and time, and please send me a letter acknowledging that. And that's all they say. And so then they give them your snail mail address, and they send it snail mail, because then you got an original.
Right.
And
Now you got
and
verification.
now you
forward
have
then,
an
too.
invitation from
Right.
a foreign
Okay,
government.
that I can see that working,
Yeah.
but you know, nobody
The
ever
only thing you have
explains
to
that.
deal with,
Right, you know, they always say you don't need to
dealing
use
with
the,
debts.
you get the
The
passport
check-in.
or nothing like that. It's like, all right, then how do you interact with all these agents when they come up?
Yes,
And that's what I have a problem with Vic and they have in Canada.
Right.
They're not talking about that part of it.
Right.
They talk about the beneficial interest, and I always held the driver's license, the social security cards, the passports, and everything else are not what enslaves you. It's how you use them and how you service them. And 31 USC 3113 Part 2, I think that's what it is, says that if you take on part of if you pay any part of a debt before settling the government's debt, you're wholly liable for all the debt associated with that property. So basically, somewhere along the line, you paid a debt in that name, and thus you became liable for all debts in that name. You acted as usufruct, you became usufruct.
Until you correct it.
Yeah, so you can have the birth, you can have the driver's license, you can have the passports and everything, because that's all designed to make your life easier. It's not designed for anything else. The original purpose of a driver's license was probably a census of all the people using the damn road. So they could allocate highway funds properly, because you don't want to allocate, equal and get it equal, because one only may have 200 people using that road. Why should they get the same amount as someone who has 2 million using that road? That's what it was for. And same thing with BERST, it was all about census and distribution of health funds to areas where they needed it because of higher concentrations of people. And all this stuff was designed for other things, and it's slowly morphed into something, but it's not.
Took a life of its own, and
It took a life of its own, and now everybody's used it wrong. So I always contend that most of this shit we're dealing with is all misapplications of law.
And we're to blame.
A lot of times that is. And matter of fact, I have a video, it's self-inflicted issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
99%.
And I remember reading this from, when I first started out, I got a pamphlet of stuff from not Van Dyke, but some other guy. And some kid, 16-year-old kid, walked into a courtroom, and the judge asked, "Do you understand why you're here?" And he goes, "Yeah, but I don't want to get into a title dispute with you." And they got rid of the case.
So Boris, to answer your thing about the passport and status, so I know two people personally, they have done the passport, as a national of whatever, Union National or American National or State National, whatever, right? And how it works is pretty simple. Everybody gets a United States of America passport. If you get it as a U.S. citizen, that's your status. And how it happens is behind in the background, how you apply. And you do an affidavit of status, and that gets incorporated into the passport, and you become a you get a United States of America passport, and your status is what it is. And it's all in codes or whatever, but they know.
You would still have a P on it.
You don't put yourself.
I don't know if it has a P or not.
Ask him to see if it has a P, because if it has a P, you're still prisoner.
It used to be. There was something.
It's one of those, because it's all issued by Department of Transportation. It's the transportation through the Department of State.
By the states, yeah.
There was something I was reading that talked about how in the 30s, when you immigrated to America, then you had an option. You could be a state citizen or a U.S. citizen. And most people were completely clueless of what it meant to be a U.S. citizen versus a state citizen. So they said U.S. citizen. And it got to the point that they just took the state citizen off of there. And
See, sorry, Mike's got it, and it says there's a C there, a G and a Q.
there's no P?
Nope, I don't see it.
No, on the passport, it'll be on the passport.
Is there
This is a passport.
card? Is there?
Right,
Passport
but
card.
I've never seen it on the passport card. It's always on the passport.
So what is it? It's on the number
The book
It's
has-
up in the top corner when you're going by the name.
on the right?
It'll be right next to the name on the passport itself. It'll say a P on there.
This says,
This card and the book
nationality,
have
it
two
says,
different numbers.
nationality, it says USA, nationally.
Yeah, mine had that. I had one of those as well. I lost it. Reading a little while ago.
In Valentine, for passport, it says that passports are issued during a time of war.
That's true. That's true.
So when we go to peace, you won't need a passport.
That's true.
We've been at war for a long time, and they want war, and they keep it in the status of war.
Well,
Maybe once the reset happens, war will end.
Yeah, see, the United States is structured where every state is an independent nation unto itself. We don't need passports to pass through the states.
And we're at peace with each other.
Right, right.
Actually, somebody maybe, there's war between the states, and then they
You
were
lost
not.
their,
They actually
Yeah,
lost their
There's not enough light.
yeah.
A country without borders.
There's not enough light to see, that's what I'm.
And that's the way.
So you guys wanna go out and get a picture, or a group picture?
Right.
Sure, sounds good.
Yeah, let's,
So, we're.
and,
oh, yes,
thanks
it does
everybody
have
for
the,
your.
sun's
out right now.
So before we go out, so